On tonight's Cover One Buffalo podcast, we are joined by Kent Swanson, the KC Sports Network. But first, our guys, Handsome Jack.
Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia worldwide with Greg Tompsett and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL. Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we've got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, show off that shirt. It's back. AFC Championship. We're ready. It's time.
I'm pulling my Von Miller out of just crazy optimism, positivity only. I got the conference champion hug from when they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in 1991. I'm putting all positive vibes out there in order to make this work. I've been a negative Nelly nonstop. This postseason so far, all of that has been removed. I'm no longer part of RJ's Nervous Mafia. I've left the Nervous Mafia. I'm confident Mafia. That might be stupid of me, but we've been here before, man. I was talking with Nate Geary early in the week, and it's just so crazy. Like, you saw me against the Broncos feeling really nervous, didn't necessarily love that matchup. So much pressure on them. Like, you can't get bounced in the wild card. And then all the talk of Lamar versus Josh and this Ravens team seeing just like an undeniable force offensively. And that had me worried. And once they won that, like, yeah, I want to continue. I want to go into the Super Bowl, but the pressure release valve just sort of came off for me. And I'm just sitting and soaking this in and enjoying being back in the AFC Championship game. And people can say that's a loser mentality or whatever, but I am just happy to be here, Greg.
Yeah, there's a freedom that comes with getting to this point. And, you know, obviously I really need this. Like, I really, really need this. I need them to win it and to make it. But like they've gotten to the point now where, you know, they won the division and get in a rebuilding year. They've got $60-70 million in dead cap, but they won the division again. They've won multiple playoff games again. They got past the division round hurdle. They, you know, dispatched the Ravens, who obviously look like a really powerful, intimidating team, playing really, really well, you know, down the stretch. And now they get to, you know, the ultimate dragon that has to be slayed. This is, you know, we dealt with Brady for all those years, but we never had the team to actually do anything about it. And now we're in a spot where we have the new dynasty right here as our blocker, stopping us from achieving what we want to achieve. And, you know, there's some poetic justice to that structure that, in order to do it, we're going to have to go through them. Like, I know some fans were understandably rooting for the Texans to win because you get the home game, the easier path. Like, I would have been perfectly fine if the Texans had upset them. But there is a poetic element to the fact that if they're going to finally get over the hill and achieve it, that they would have checked every box along the way, and they would have had to go through each of the teams that you needed to really, truly get over the hill.
Manning did it. Jordan did it in the NBA, right? Like, he had to get through the Pistons. Manning had to get through the Patriots. Steve Young had to get through the Cowboys. Like, you've had these all throughout sports. I don't know if the Bills are going to be able to get over the hump. If they don't, I think this is the longest stretch of a QB versus QB and one of them not winning, right? I don't think any QBs beat another one 4 times. So hopefully this is the one where you get over the stretch here. And I know America's rooting for the Bills. No offense to Kent here. I know Kent's in there. It is everybody. It is KC versus the world a little bit this week, because they've sort of went from toppling the Patriots and being that likable. You even said it. Like, I think a lot of Bills fans were mad at KC, but they had a similar path to us getting to that point of the first Super Bowl, and very similar fan base, and everyone was rooting for them. Now they've sort of become the villain. Like, people hate success. They hate constant winning, and everyone wants to see the Bills knock them off. So I've gotten more texts and stuff this week of people being like, dude, I'm pulling for you. I hope this is the one. I hope this is the run. So either way, it's a great week. Eyes are on the Bills, and a lot of people pulling for the Bills, especially with Detroit out. I know a lot of people are looking towards Detroit or Minnesota for one of those teams to finally get one. We're like the Cubs entering the World Series. That is what people want to see. So
yeah, without further ado, let's bring them up here. Kent, welcome aboard. We love everybody at KC Sports Network.
Yeah.
It's we say it all the time. I love watching you guys, rooting for you guys every other week that we're not playing each other or that's not coming down to seeding. But before we get into anything serious on this week, maybe talk about that arc of does it feel weird going from the first run, genuinely everybody rooting for you because it was this new amazing thing, like that opening run of the Warriors when they first were just this really fun new thing and oh my gosh, it was really easy for everybody to jump on board, to now get to the point of all right, 3 and 5 years is enough. It's somebody else's turn. How is that? I would love to have those problems. Tell me what those problems are like.
Oh man, it does. I do feel it feels very Warriors-ish. That does kind of feel like the arc of it. I don't know who our Draymond is. You guys can tell me. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, for sure. And it's definitely, I don't know how much attention a lot of fans pay, how do I say this, from the outside looking in, I guess. I know that we get defensive and stuff and we go back and forth with everybody on social media like everybody else does. But I think it's just, I think there's always been enough hate somewhere from somebody that you always feel it, right? And most of the time it's just the Bengals.
That's right. They can get it.
Yeah,
they can get it.
They can have it. But that's all they got is jokes. It's okay. But no, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if I've always looked at it like that or that.
Sweet Spike here is saying, I do think it's Chris Jones, although he's definitely more likable than Draymond. He has a likable element, but it probably is Chris Jones. It probably is Chris Jones.
Yeah, that probably is it. But he's this just goofy doofball that would never intentionally try to kick someone in the gonads. So
correct.
That's
slightly
all.
less hateable than Draymond, slightly less contemptible, but it probably is Chris Jones.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm good with that.
A little different than the Warriors, though, in the sense that this team has taken such an evolution in how they've gotten each one, right? It started out just this absolute juggernaut of an offense that nobody in the league could figure out. And then it slowly transitioned to that Steve Spagnuolo defense kind of dragging them through a few of the seasons here. And now this year, it was just really, I don't know statistically, but probably one of the best records, right? It's got to be your best record, regular season record, but not the best team, really just above average, every metric that is out there. Patrick Mahomes hasn't lit the league on fire. Even the defense is only playing really in an above average level, but finding ways to win one score games. What has that been like of being a team that has just year in and year out found new and different ways to maintain this level of success? Because the Warriors did it, but it was always the same. It was okay, nobody can stop this 3-point barrage. And they just had the same, cookie cutter way of doing it. The Chiefs have really adapted every single year, and it seemingly gets better in weird ways, even though the stats say it's not better.
That's the weirdest part of this year is, and the Chiefs seem to have a slog at some point during the season every year, and that normally leads to some losses, some frustrations. And 2 years ago, this team lost, I think, 5 games in the regular season, and it wasn't looking pretty, and they weren't going to get the 1 seed. And then all this stuff happens. They have to go on the road for the divisional. They have to go on the road for the AFC Championship game last year. But they've slowly evolved, and stylistically, I think here's the thing. It's very hard to talk about this team without sounding super arrogant about it. But this team is just figured out, and they have a DNA of championship caliber, right? They know how to win games, and they haven't. I mean, they're one of the best one of their best draft classes. The 2022 draft class hasn't known anything less than a Super Bowl. So they just have this I feel this innate feel for the season. They have this this kind of mentality and goal that just exceeds beyond this. They've just slowly figured out how to gut through things, work through things, win games. That's kind of what I think we're seeing is this team just they've had to adapt. They've had to deal with some losses, some player losses. But they've just kind of figured things out as they've gone. But normally the figuring out has been losses, right? And so like this is another year where the Chiefs are throwing, I think, fans for a curveball, where last year it didn't look like things were all that great, right? And then they just figured out a way to play elite defense and then protect the football, and Patrick Mahomes make plays when he needs to. And then this year it's just been like, they're not playing great defense. The offense really hasn't hit their stride, and they win the most games in franchise history. It's been
not making mistakes, right? Letting other teams make mistakes and capitalizing on those.
Yeah, but even the first half of the year, they were making mistakes. Sure. And that's the funny thing is like they just started protecting the football the last like 6-7 weeks. It's been weird to navigate. It's been weird to try to understand what this team really is this year.
We did it during that whole Patriots run of like, oh man, this is we finally got him here. This is the one, and then oh my god, how did they figure out a way out of this one? And it's like you said, when you have that many reps and that many situations where you have found a path to win, it becomes easier to then find the next path to win.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And like they kind of have. And I mean, I think the Bills have done a lot of the things that I think honestly the Bills have figured a lot out over the last
I was going to say there's no two teams in the NFL right now that have that battle tested nature that you're talking about. And I think it was on full display in the divisional round for both teams of like they didn't play their best football, either team, but the other teams made mistakes and they just played clean and suffocating and stretched those games out. And that's kind of how you do it in the NFL. You let other teams beat themselves.
Yeah. And like that's exactly what I look at watching what the Bills are doing, and like they have so many different ways to to try to manage a game, and like they can always pull the Josh Allen, card. Like, they can always just play that Josh Allen card anytime they want. Like it's very similar crossover to what the Chiefs do.
Well, it's, it made me crazy watching people say that, well, the Ravens lost, but they played better. And be like, well, so because you saw they had more yards, but the Bills had fewer turnovers, fewer penalties, better average starting position, better time of possession, better red zone efficiency, like all these other things that, when you're constantly starting at the 2-yard line and the 12-yard line, and we're starting at our own at your 20 because you turn the ball over to us, you're going to have more net yardage. But the idea that equates to they played better, like, don't get me wrong, Baltimore played well. Like, this wasn't like some embarrassing lopsided win, but like all of these people just definitively saying that, oh, the Bills won, but the Ravens played better. Like, well, what things do you actually think matter in football?
Win probability never dip below 80, but go for it.
Yeah. It's totally fine.
The magnitude of those two moments where they turn those crucial turnovers, it's like those got to count for something. Just because they're two plays, they're the two of the biggest plays in that entire game, and the Bills didn't make those crucial mistakes. Like that's okay. Okay,
well, no different than like, and again, I'm not planning to bring this up during the show or harp on it. Like there were some calls in that Texans Chiefs game that were a little questionable, and there was a handful that seemed to go one side more than the other. The idea that was the difference in the game, like yes, those calls weren't great, and that like no, I don't think it's the most becoming thing of like him, holding up at the sideline to try to draw the foul. Like, okay, are those great? No. But like the idea that people conflated that to, oh, that's why the Texans like shot themselves in the foot like 11 times.
They can't block or pass protect. Yeah.
Like, no, like CJ Stroud taking 5 different third down sacks is why they lost, not because of ridiculous penalties in the game.
Putting Schultz on Karlaftis in passing downs is another not good.
Yeah, choice. Karlaftis for the tight end 3 times. Yeah. That's why you lost. You didn't lose because of bad penalties.
I got to step in on this refereeing thing, and I've actually deleted like 5 tweets this week because I don't know how to say it. I know I'm going to piss off a bunch of Bills fans when I say it. I don't think it's like the thing that we think it is. Kansas City plays a lot of home playoff games, right? There's an edge to playing at home. That part of home field advantage is home teams get more calls. Like that is just sort of baked into
it's human nature, and it's been that way in the history
of the history of football. They're also one of the best coached teams, right? Like this is a solid tackling team. This is a team, like Ken has said, this is a team that's seen situations. You hear the way these guys talk about making some of those mistakes, whether it's pre-snap penalties, things like that. Like those statistics that like Warren Sharp puts out, really you got to separate penalties between pre-snap penalties and post-snap penalties and things like that. The Chiefs aren't shooting themselves in the foot consistently with offsides and those types of penalties. And so, yeah. And then on top of that, all of sports history, Jordan got calls. Josh Allen gets calls. Like the best players in the league are going to get a little bit more leeway. Brady, all these guys. So I think it's quite overstated. Although the optics of it, I am also that fan. When I see it happen in the Texans game, I'm like, oh, that's not going to help their argument, right? But I think it is a little overstated because when you put in all the nuance, it should be expected, right?
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of statistical measures that would say that the Chiefs don't even have that favorable of a whistle line. I know like Warren Sharp cherry picked something in the middle of the Chiefs Super Bowl kind of run, like just decided to use 2021 as an endpoint and ignore like 3 years that the Chiefs have been to the Super Bowl in the playoffs or whatever. I think there's a little bit of all of that baked into it. And like, I don't know if I ever, I don't know if I've ever, I don't buy into the narratives that the Chiefs are just like overwhelmingly favored by the whistle or by the refs. And like, you're right, there's so much nuance and context to all this stuff, right? Like, but like Kadarius Toney was offsides, the Chiefs just stopped playing him, right? Like there's it is like there's some pre-snap, there's some post-snap stuff, and that's been the most exhausting thing this week is just the whole argument and conversation about that. That has worn me out. It's like that this year, that's my Allen versus Jackson MVP like narrative. Like you guys were all exhausted from that last week. I'm exhausted from all this, ref stuff. And like, it's just,
also, if it's a conspiracy, why would the NFL would do better to have a team like Buffalo advance, right?
Exactly.
Like that is what America wants. Like America doesn't want Kansas City to continue to go on and win. And so that's another thing is like the people that say it's some conspiracy that the NFL wants this dynasty. I can't see that as a benefit to the business. So I don't know where that conspiracy comes from.
Yeah, it's gross.
You're muted, Greg.
Even further, there's a piece of it that there's not all that many things to pick at with Kansas City. So like the one thing people can cling to, like when you want to hate or you want to push back, like it's the one thing that you can cling to. And I did give Bills fans a hard time. I will, like some of the calls where like the late slide thing. Okay. You can debate that. Like, was it actually helmet to helmet? You can debate that. The selling the thing for the calls, like, Mahomes is like a 7 out of 10. Josh is a 10 out of 10. Like yes, Mahomes does sell some hits to try to get the flag, and by all means, like every high end athlete accentuates the thing to try to get like the best. Yeah, like and Allen doesn't bait people into getting hits, but if you make contact, he's gonna flail his 250-pound body as hard as he can to be, oh my god, you see how hard they hit me. Like Josh does it more than Mahomes.
Who was the O-line or D-line that did it in this game? Well, who was it that did it in the game?
It was Kincaid. And the weird part was I actually think like the way everybody was positioned, he couldn't move his feet. Like, so he couldn't step back. So once he started to go, he's like, screw it. And like threw himself back. But do you watch the Hard Knocks?
I have not.
Okay. You'll enjoy it. The Ravens getting knocked out. It was delightful to watch. It was great. But Roquan Smith is mic'd up and he's like screaming at the ref, like, he flopped, or they knew you flopped. Like it was really funny. It's
We got a question for you, Ken, here from a super chat from Chief Orley. Would you rather, assuming you're going to pick the Kansas City Chiefs to win and go forward to the Super Bowl, would you rather the Eagles or Commanders for a KC matchup? And this is something that maybe Greg and I will discuss later for the Bills, but who would you rather of the NFC if you do get past this round?
I think the totality of the roster for the Philadelphia Eagles is better than the Washington Commanders, and like Jaden Daniels, man,
he's the next Mahomes, right?
He's the next. He might jump in that tier with our guys, with the Josh and Mahomes.
I'm scared to place him there because people did it with Stroud last year, and that backfired.
It's a might, right? You know, like he's next. Like he's
Yeah.
you know, he's gonna be up there pretty quick here, right? But it's I think
I'll
it's
give
the
the
argument.
analogy, like Mahomes isn't greater than Brady on the whole because Brady did it for that long. Mahomes' 8 years are greater than Brady's first 8 years. Like that's he's on trajectory
Yeah.
to be the greatest player of all time. So in an isolated window, like it's pretty clear to make the case that he's having the greatest rookie season ever. Like it's
Arguably.
from a
It's insane.
impact in winning, like impact on the game. It's probably the
Yeah.
greatest rookie season in NFL
Well, and also
history.
Mahomes went to a team that was a perennial playoff team, making a push to be better. Like, nobody
Making
expected this.
a 4-win team in an embarrassing organization that had been a disaster, and it wasn't even like a backed into the playoffs at like 9-8 or 8-9. Like they're winning all the time, and he's unflappable. Like it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
He's insane. I read my article I predicted every game of the season. Beginning of the year, did an article with that. And I predicted the Commanders to go 4-13. And here they are. Like,
Yeah.
and he's playing out of his mind, and I missed on him. I didn't have him.
I whiffed. I whiffed
Yeah.
on him. But I don't. The nice thing for us is we don't have to really actually look at quarterback. So I just did like a quick glance.
Yeah.
I was like,
See, that's why.
I'll give myself a little pat on the back. I had a like RG3 arc. I said, hey, I actually think he's going to win offensive the rookie of the year, is going to look awesome, and then is going to get horrifically hurt because he's like this thick around, and it's just not going to be sustainable. And I will give him credit. He does have a little bit of that Lamar to him where he is so athletic that he can avoid the big hits and get out of the way really, really well. Like he just hasn't gotten lit up all that often.
Yep. He deserves a ton of credit too. Like I think he's gotten better at some of the things that I think he wasn't quite as good at, but he's still got some of those abilities down the field that are like, I mean, he's playing out of his mind. I'm happy for him. Genuinely, like I'm glad because he seems like an incredible kid too. But I'm rooting for him. But yeah, I think I'd still rather play them.
A Bills Commanders Super Bowl sounds way more fun than a Chiefs Eagles one.
Why,
dude? That sounds like the most boring, like long. Each team gets like 2 possessions a half type of game where it's just 13 play drives, just dragging the game out, condensing the game. Nobody wants that in the Super Bowl.
All right, let's actually get into it here. Let's talk about it. There was a point in the season where I felt really, really good about this matchup because I was like, well, like even if I don't have Myles Garrett, but like our defensive ends can beat those 2 tackles. Like we're gonna be all right playing against those guys. And then I told myself like, well, like sure, Joe Thuney's good, but like you can't disrupt how good the interior is to fix one other problem. It's like the fingers in the dam. Like you can't, if you take one finger out here and plug it over there, the hole's just going to start there. From afar, it kind of seems like it's working. Like Caliendo has been less of a problem at guard than what, the rotating door was at left tackle. And Thuney is probably not as good of a tackle as he was of a guard, but like the net seems to be working out. Is that a reasonable assessment?
So yes, it is. And like I would say that, like I think Joe Thuney Caliendo is better than Kingsley Suamataia Thuney or Wanye Thuney. But the problem is there's this mystery door over here named DJ Humphries. And we don't really know what the Chiefs have in him because he came back for the end of the season. He played, 90% of a game, got hurt, missed a bunch of time, played 34 snaps against the Denver Broncos. And like we've seen him play competent left tackle. And that version, that competent left tackle play would paired with Thuney would be the best version, right? So like I think like there's been like this, like there's always this mystery door over here that we're just like, what if, or maybe they feel more comfortable. Maybe they'd rather, have something in the interior better for Ed Oliver, and maybe they just make the switch anyway. But the tackle play has gotten better. The tackle play was still kind of rough over on the left side against the Texans. Now the Texans have a fantastic pass rush, and Jawan Taylor played his best football, I think, of the season in that game. So that was nice. But Thuney had his issues, and he had some problems with
Hunter and Anderson is a sick combo.
Yeah, it's nuts. So, like, I think, yeah, they definitely played better, and maybe it was just because that defensive line is just, that's the best edge pairing in football, possibly. So, I don't know. They've found the floor for what they're capable of. I think at the tackle position, and that's been stable and that's been helpful.
So, when you talk about who they're blocking for here in the backfield, I guess I expected things to switch back to like a 80-20 Pacheco to Hunt's 20. And I know the game script kind of got away a little bit in the Texans starting out a little bit hotter in that game. And like so the run pass split was a little skewed and the sample size is small because of the long drives and everything. I was expecting more from Pacheco coming back. Is it that you guys are just getting the best of what he's got now post injury, and that like, hey, maybe he'll be back to who he was? I still like he still runs when he's healthy, like the 4 you were telling you, hey, watch this. Are you going to get that back next year, or is it just that like, hey, they are still kind of working on the same idea as Humphreys, like trying to maybe they change it up this week? It's just hard to tell. I expected it to be more of a switch being flipped. Maybe that was unfair in the injury recovery.
I think Kareem Hunt's been better than Isaiah Pacheco this year, and I don't know how close it's been. And like, I love Isaiah Pacheco. He still has a lot of vision problems, and he leaves a lot of yards on the field. And like the way he runs and as hard he runs actually leads to troubles with his contact balance. So like, I think there's a lot of yards left on the field with Isaiah Pacheco.
Hunt's short yardage is annoyingly efficient. Like he's so tough to get you that like 2 yards when you really need to convert, even if they know it's coming. He's so tough to get down.
Yeah, and I mean, even with, when it's not just short yardage, I think he's done more with what's been blocked for him. The problem with that is Kareem Hunt's like, he's banged up, man. Like I think he's playing through injuries, and like I think they're trying to load manage him as much as they can. But like I think they'd rather the split be in favor of Kareem. I think that game against the Texans, it felt more like, hey, let's let Isaiah Pacheco get some of those, get some run early, and then we're going to kind of try to close this thing out with Kareem. And like, that's kind of it. That's what it kind of felt like they were doing in that game. And Kareem's, his workload got heavier as the game went on. So it's Pacheco. It's been up and down. Like I love him, but he's very limited in what he's fun to watch, but maybe not the best running back. He is really like just a Tasmanian devil back there with some of his runs and stuff.
So, and now the analogy Bill Simmons always used to use for Rob Gronkowski during the end of the Patriots run, he would always talk about that, once you got into that, the regular season was just kind of the warm up, and you kept the sports car in the garage until you really needed it to show there. And I was, it's easy to wonder about that because like he is, hell, the funny part is he's as old as Gronkowski is, and Gronkowski's been retired for a while now. So a piece of me always wondered, like, yeah, that's easy to say, but does he really still have it left? And then you see this, the playoff game, like it just turned back on, and that having, now both teams had their like big trade acquisition to the deadline. Like, yeah, it's kind of nice to have if we need it, but we don't really need it all that often. Where has that going? We've seen Worthy, I think maybe a different piece than what people expected. I think everybody just expected this take off the top, and really it's been using his speed more horizontally to stretch the field. And like, hey, let's get him a running head start, and then Kelsey going back to like true peak Kelsey in these playoff moments. Where do you see that evolution of mixing Hollywood Brown back in and the different pieces there? It's getting closer to like what the Bills have of like, hey, it's kind of pick your poison, with Kelsey as more of a top end number one versus what we have. Where is your mind at on the usage, and like, is it that just they waited until the right moment to bring him back at full go?
So yeah, I mean, first off, do you know how many wide receivers caught a pass for the Chiefs against the Texans?
I didn't realize it until I was looking again here prior to the show to like get prepped and to be able to look at it. I didn't realize it was literally like just Worthy, right?
It was just Worthy.
Worthy is the only one.
Yeah. Xavier Worthy's the only one. Yeah. So like, I think Travis Kelce's been, I think he's kind of at the phase of his career where he is trying to just ramp up for this moment and for this opportunity because, he's put his body through a lot and, like it's not that he hasn't been playing or hasn't been receiving targets, but the offense hasn't consistently funneled through him for the entirety of the season. And like, there was a ton of opportunities in this game for him against the Texans to, get back into it. Like the stat line looks a little different if the Houston Texans don't leave him wide open in the middle of the field. He made a guy miss though, and that was what was really exciting because that might have been the first guy he had made miss all year. Then with Worthy, I think people forget like this team had Rashee Rice, pegged to be wide receiver one. It feels like forever ago, right? And like the early returns, like it looked like
those first 5 weeks were sick.
Well, yeah, it was less than 5. I think it was week 3 against the Chargers. Week 4, I don't know, but it looked like Rashee Rice was about to be just an absolute maniac. And he gets hurt against the Chargers very early in that game. So the Chiefs kind of had to try to figure a lot of stuff out offensively and like how to utilize guys. And like, I think Xavier Worthy definitely, like, I think the plan was gadget stuff and vertical stretch stuff, but they've weaponized him and used him a lot more, and found more ways to leverage him, like the, some out routes and getting him some out routes at the sticks, like he had one in that game. They still involve him with like reverses and like they're still going to try to stretch down the field. Like I think he's a guy that will still try to get down the field in this game. But they've really found a way to kind of utilize him even more. And Patrick Mahomes has put a ton of trust in him. And like, that's really hard to do. I know like Hollywood Brown didn't get a catch in this game. I know Nuke Hopkins didn't get a catch in this game, but like they went to those guys in high leverage situations. And that game could have looked a little bit differently if Hollywood Brown comes down with 1 or 2 catches, if Nuke comes down with 1 or 2. So I think they'll get involved in this game. I think
Juju had a target too.
Oh yeah, and Juju. There's Juju. But I do think they're going to get Hollywood and Nuke involved more. But like, it's been nice to see what they've been able to get out of Travis and out of Worthy too.
Let's flip it over to the other side. One real quick too. I think I don't know that Houston was leaving Kelce open. His route tree, like the way he runs routes, I think just screws up linebackers and defensive. Like
it's they pay it off in the postseason because there's a lot of it's like a nod and he's rapping and like
where you were seeing Stevie Johnson stuff, like it just like it's unorthodox and feels weird, so they're not ready for it.
And some of it's freestyle. He's just playing off leverage, and Pat knows where he's heading, and that's almost impossible to guard at this level because you're playing 2 plays and what you see on tape, and so they're just so in tune with each other, and that's why he looks wide open all the time, and it's great. But let's flip it over here to the other side of the ball, and I want to talk big picture here because last time we had you on, the kind of the narrative about that game was nobody's going to throw everything, right? Like Spags is going to save some stuff. He's not going to put it all out there. Yeah, you want to continue going undefeated, but the idea was probably going to play the Bills again. I think everybody knew that even after the loss, Travis Kelce and his brother were on a podcast. And he's like, we're going to see these guys again, right? This one's an interesting one for me. I'm terrified of Spags. I spent a lot of time looking at defense all around the league. I respect him the most. If I was going to run a defense, it'd look a lot like his. But I think it's an interesting one because I think when you think of Spags, you think of these like crazy blitz packages and all this exotic looks. And that is true against like that second half of the Texans game. He really opened it up because I think he realized CJ Stroud has no pocket presence and we can really get after this guy. Is he going to have that against a Josh Allen? I know he'll pick his spots and stuff, but he does seem to respect some of the quarterbacks like a Josh Allen more, where he just kind of drops back and says, hey, beat us the way Patrick Mahomes has to beat teams and do it 5 yards at a time. Do you expect more of that or some of the exotic stuff?
He's like I think Josh Allen's like the most Spags proof quarterback. Yeah. I think in football. And weirdly, like Jordan Love was able to like make Spags pay because like Josh can make people right and make you right even when you get got. And like, that's like one of those unique traits that only a few quarterbacks have. I think I would have rather faced the Ravens in the AFC Championship because I think, like we've seen Spags get Lamar more than we've seen Spags get Josh, and just how they create. I mean, like Lamar's amazing. Don't get me wrong. It's just like that's just the story arc here. Like he held him to 14 points. I think the Chiefs are. Yeah, I think they're going to play top down. They're going to try to tighten things up in the red. They're going to try to win early downs. They're going to try to stop the run so that they can put Josh Allen in 3rd and longs. And even then, I think Josh was like 6 out of 11 on 3rd and longs in that game. The last time that these two teams matched up, Josh has made some incredible plays. So the good news, I think, for the Chiefs and for like Spags is Spags should be able to get in his bag a little bit more if he wants, because Jalen Watson's back.
Yep.
And that's like such a huge factor in this game. Najee Johnson and Shamari Connor were targeted 18 times the last time that these two teams matched up by Josh Allen, and they're not even going to be on the field to get targeted as much. So I think you'll see more exotic stuff from Spags, and I think they'll throw a lot at Josh. But it's still like, I think they're going to be aggressive on early downs, try to create some negative plays in the run game too.
Yeah.
And like they'll try to weaponize like Leo Chanel with some run blitzes and some stuff like that, just to try to disrupt some stuff there.
On that, with talking about Jalen Watson and really also Chris Jones a little bit, two guys want different kind of scenarios, but coming off injuries at the end of the season, how do you feel they looked in the last round there? Because there's a lot of charts out there that show Chris Jones, his pressure percentage and stuff like that, but he still had big plays in that game. And I did watch Jalen Watson, but I had a tough time sort of getting a read on where he was at for this game here. We saw obviously a lot of Trent McDuffie and how he played, but where was Jalen Watson at, and what are you feeling on Chris Jones right now?
So I'll start with Chris. Feel pretty good. Like he's definitely getting some work. He's getting a little bit more work, like on his calf during the game and stuff like that. So like I think it might have been bothering, but he wasn't on the injury report this week, right? So like it looks like he might be back. Only played 76% of the snaps, which normally he's on the field 90 plus during a postseason game. So like it's definitely something to monitor. They moved him around a little bit more too. And in this game, maybe that contributed a little bit to some of the snap, the metrics there. And then they played a lot of games on, basically lined them up off the tackle and then played, games and got some nice rushes there.
Yeah.
The biggest news for the Kansas City Chiefs heading into this game is that Jalen Watson played 59% of the snaps against the Houston Texans, came out unscathed, and got some of that rust knocked off. Yeah. That is the absolute biggest news for the Kansas City Chiefs heading into this game. When Jalen Watson was on the field for this defense, they were markedly better. They didn't have they didn't have a Najee Johnson to throw at. They didn't have Shamari Connor. I think looks better when a Jalen Watson is out on the field, and I think Shamari got targeted 6 times in that game that against the Bills the last time. So his presence is huge. I think he looked pretty good coming back. I was very surprised at how much he played and how well he looked in that game, and that's massive for the Chiefs. Like honestly, the defense for the Chiefs now is essentially last year's team plus Tershawn Wharton, basically plus Charles Omenihu, Aiden Hicks, and minus L'Jarius Sneed. So like there's a lot of that talent continuity back from last year, which means I think that gives Steve Spagnuolo the confidence to dial up the stuff he wants, because they had a lot of issues and a lack of trust in some of the guys that they were rolling out there trying to get those coverage calls. Yeah,
I got 2 more here for you. One, still in the defensive back room. Trent McDuffie obviously shadowed Nico Collins quite a bit and did a great job on him there. And Houston, that just didn't have enough outside of Nico Collins to really expose that and allowed Trent McDuffie to follow him. With the Bills being so, Mina Kimes said it actually in her show this week. I loved it because we've been talking about like everybody eats, but the Bills are kind of target agnostic where they're just putting the ball where it needs to go. Do you still see McDuffie following like a Khalil Shakir who's leading in receiving? Is that what you think the Chiefs are going to do there?
Yes. I think Khalil Shakir seems like I think Josh's primary target this season, and the Chiefs finally have some outside corner support with Watson back to allow Trent McDuffie to kick inside a little bit more. And like you already saw him do that, like you talked about following Nico Collins, at times in this game. I think they will do that a little bit more and give some more support to, a guy that's, had a great season. I was on him too in the draft, by the way. I think Aaron, you were big on him. I had a pretty solid grade on him too back when on Shakir, but Yeah, I think you're going to see Trent moving around a little bit more. I'm fascinated to see how that looks, honestly, because that's a big matchup in this game.
I think it can be, yeah. And my last one here is sort of that second level of the defense. So I always ask guys this: is I look at the defense as how would I attack it if I'm an offensive coordinator? I'm looking at that second level and even the safeties in the middle of the field. And if CJ Stroud had a little bit better pocket presence and they had a little bit more better protection, I think that Houston could have made that more of a game. The middle of the field seemed wide open. Was that by just what they were trying to do to take Nico Collins away and kind of allowing the middle of the field? Or is that something that you're seeing pretty consistently, that second level, just the speed, lack of speed and coverage? It seems to me like Nick Bolton would be the guy specifically that Joe Brady's looking at to target in the middle of the field with tight ends.
They do a decent job keeping Bolton from having to match up against tight ends that much. And so you'll see Drew Tranquil lined up over tight ends a lot more frequently. Bills did a good job of attacking Leo Chenal out of their heavier personnels the last time. Like, he did his thing in the run game. It was very disruptive and changed the line of scrimmage and all that. Yeah. But Bill's got a couple chunk plays throwing over the top of Leo Chenal too. So this linebacking core is physical. They're good against the run. They have their struggles in coverage. And I think the Bills tried to stretch those linebackers laterally in the AFC divisional round last time, right? Like they tried to use the edge game, the edge screens, the running backs. Those were to try to stretch that linebacking core from the Chiefs last year. Like, I could see Joe Brady picking on that entire linebacking core behind him, side to side.
That's kind of where to attack it, right? Like, if you're going to attack this defense.
And I think the Chiefs would be okay with that for the most part. And against lesser quarterbacks, it works really well. But, Josh can throw field outs comfortably. So it's, that's a struggle there. Shamari Connor's in the same boat too.
All right, man. We're here. We're going to put you on the spot. Give us a score prediction. Let us know what you think we're going to see on Sunday.
Woo. I don't know. I don't like doing this. So I picked the Bills to beat the Chiefs in the regular season, and I had a pretty good feel like that was going to be the case. And I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs to return the favor this week. I mean, you guys are shocked. I'm telling you, shocked. I can see the utter shock on your face. It's going to be interesting for, I think, a lot of Chiefs fans to figure this out and kind of understand. I think their existence moving forward. And here's why. Last year's regular season didn't matter because the Chiefs just found a way to kind of figure things out and slog through it, and then they found a way to win a championship. And I understand why everyone looks at this team and says, "Oh, they're gettable this year," and maybe they are. We're gonna find out. But I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Steve Spagnuolo, Trent McDuffie. I'm just not going to do it. I can't do it. I think it's going to be a close game. As it's going to be third downs. It's going to be red zone.
Yeah, 7 versus 3.
Just don't come down to kickers this time.
Okay. I don't think it is. I think it's going to be 21-20 late, and the Chiefs are finally going to put a drive together to close a team out, which they really haven't done much this year. So I'm going to go 28-20 Chiefs win. Just that it's a late game touchdown kind of closing things out. It's very poetic and similar to what we just saw in Orchard Park this year.
I understand it. I think it makes sense why you'd pick in favor of the guy that you've seen come through over and over and over again.
I say it all the time too. Until you prove it, you got to prove it to me, right? It's tough for me to pick it until you prove it.
Can I say all the things that I love to say about you guys? I love Bills Mafia. I genuinely, if you beat the Chiefs, I will be rooting for you to end this curse, this X-Files smokers curse or whatever it is.
The cigarette.
I really am rooting for you. You guys are cut from a very similar cloth. You guys come
100%.
from this stuff. You come by all this honestly the same way a lot of Chiefs fans have. I'm rooting for you guys. I'm rooting for Bills Mafia. I love y'all to death. Just not this time.
As you said
I want
last
the
time.
three-peat, and then, but no, I am genuinely rooting for you guys. I hate having to do this every year, but I also love getting to hang out with you guys for an hour every year. So
I appreciate it.
the
Just let us have this one, and then we'll get back to it later. If you guys like Kent's pick, you can use promo code YouTube150. Get up to $2,000 on your overall deposits, 150% in your first deposit, 125% in your second and third deposit. Head on over to BetUS and use promo code YouTube150. All right, man. Hope for a fun, entertaining, healthy game. I think we're going to see, crazy ratings numbers with the most watched game of the year. The Bills and Ravens just broke that record last week. We're going to break that record this next week. It is going to be an incredible show, and I can't wait to see it. And obviously, we'll each be rooting for our teams to move forward. But let's hope for something fun on Sunday.
Yeah, there's always going to be a virtual hug coming from one of us right after the game in the DMs every year.
It might take me a day to respond to you, but we'll get
it's all good.
Yeah.
We just you guys gave me that virtual hug after the regular season game. We'll see who's getting the hug this time around.
All right, we'll be ready. We'll be ready. All right, later, brother. Appreciate it as always.
Man.
Yep.
I'm more stressed out now after talking to Kent. And it's he talked about some of the different pieces that there are so many genuine reasons for a Bills fan to be confident. Like, we have the team to win this game. We absolutely can. We have the most balance we've had in this entire run. We have the best offensive line we've had this whole run. We have the healthiest team we've had in this whole run. We'll talk about the update here in a second. It's not quite as healthy as it was going into last week, but still in general, from where the starting lineup was at the beginning of the season, we have almost everybody that we would plan to have in this round. And now, being in a position where we can win, we just have to come through in the moment when it matters. We have to find a way to do it when it matters and to slay this dragon, to take them down. We've done it 4 times in the regular season. We have to do it in the playoffs and make it happen now.
Yeah. On the vibes thing, which I don't know a whole lot about vibes, as many know,
what the kids have told you.
Yeah. But, with like this whole manufactured slights and all those things, like there really isn't, in my opinion, anything the Chiefs can come up with that tops what the Bills are dealing with in terms of what they've gone through against this team and what they've tried to achieve. And this team has been the one to stop them every single time. Nothing compares. And so they can manufacture all the things they want. But in terms of that vibe check, if there was a game to get up for and play your best football that you've ever played, this is it. Organizationally, top to bottom, they've embarrassed you a number of times. Those press conferences, those shots of Josh on the sideline, just feeling distraught, the 13 seconds, just sending you home consistently, watching them celebrate Super Bowl championships and have those parades. There's not a whole lot that Sean McDermott has to do to get this team up for this one. The media can say whatever they want, pick whoever they want. The narrative is there in the locker room for Sean McDermott to get these guys up. And I think those things, when you have teams that are this close and this good, I do think they make all the difference sometimes.
Yeah. This team, you can tell they understand it. They want each. Saw AJ Epinez's comments earlier with Alex Brasky talking about that you just have to find a way. You just have to find a way. You have to figure out a way to be able to come through in the moments that you need to be able to, just find a way, just make that little extra effort, that little extra step to be able to come through in those moments, to not let down when they happen and to take advantage when they make mistakes. I do think the turnover differential is going to matter. These two teams are both historically great at not making mistakes, not turning the ball over. It would be great if we could force or trigger one. So in honor of our friends over at William Mattar Law Offices, what is on your mind for what's here to help this week going into the AFC Championship game?
Yeah, I think, one, to talk about turnover, the only reason I flipped that banner on is because you were getting into it, right? Like some of these things, I actually don't think, I wouldn't expect turnovers to play much of a role in this game. I think somebody's maybe going to get one, but these teams have both been playing so clean that's maybe the thing that concerns me defensively for the Bills is I think the stops that you're going to have to get are getting Harrison Butker out there to kick field goals, less than necessarily the big turnovers. And those are going to be the small wins. Like, yeah, they're points, but I don't think whatever team's stalling and kicking field goals, I don't think that team can win this game. I think it really does. The old mantra of like, it's going to take more than field goals to win is going to reign true in this game, is who's going to be able to finish these drives. I think both teams are going to try to drag this game out, condense it, keep the other quarterback off the field, which we saw the Bills do with success here so far in the playoffs. They've run on really good run defenses the last couple of weeks, and Kansas City really isn't that good of a run defense. When you look at their numbers, when you look at the film, they're gettable in that way. And so I think the Bills are going to try to slog together. I think it's going to be a mix of what I was talking with Kent about, where Spagnuolo is going to be happy to go in too high shell looks and not allow Josh Allen to kind of take the top off and take shots downfield and try to take Khalil Shakir out of the passing game. That's going to open up 5-yard passes, 4-yard runs. And the Bills have shown the discipline to take those drives and move them down the field. If they can convert those into touchdowns while keeping Patrick Mahomes off the field, that to me is the path. And then on the other end, they're probably going to have similar drives. But if you can tighten up in the red zone 1-2 times, that to me is where all the difference is going to be in this game. Because I don't think teams are going to get a lot of possessions here.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a combination. You brought up those tight end matchups, and I think they have some of the weapons to be able to try to, not get too taken advantage. But the metrics aren't very favorable to them. Like they're, results of what they've given up. Same idea. George Karlaftis had a great game last week with 3 sacks. He gives up a lot in the run game. I expect him to see a lot of Spencer Brown coming at him full speed, ready to punch him in the mouth,
and Reggie Gilliam too.
Yes, and let's run at him, and then hit play action to the tight ends. Hit play that how much I love a good tight end leak, and give me that jumbo set, give me Alec Anderson on the field, give me everybody there. They're expecting run that play we spammed over and over again to the Ravens, where Mac Hollins comes and lines up behind Deion Dawkins in that little nub setup, and then leak Dawson Knox out of that. Make him block, and then take off down the field. We're going to hit one of those for a nice chunk play. And being in that position where we can run at them and continue to, move the ball down the field, I think that we can be in a position to be able to, put ourselves into a positive position. And I don't know exactly what the defensive matchup is going to be this week, but I think what people should be really encouraged by is that going into last week, everything would have told us that we're gonna stick to what we do. We are a base nickel team that mostly plays zone defense and tries to get home with 4. And we are. That hasn't changed. We're still that team. But you want to know what? Against the Ravens, we needed to play the most man defense we played in 4 years. We need to blitz the most we blitzed in 3 years. We needed to be able to find, we ran the ball 20 plays out of the first 26 plays. We did specifically like what needed to be done in that game for that matchup. That should give everyone the encouragement that they're going to do that this week too. They're not just going to, hey, we're going to stick with what we've done. We're going to play our game. And if you want to beat us, you got to beat us at what we do. They're going to identify a way to be able to best attack this team, and they're going to be willing to do that, even if it's not our norm, even if it's not our go-to. They're going to do what's necessary to win this game, which I think should give everyone encouragement in the evolution of this coaching staff and their willingness to go outside of their comfort zone if it's what this game calls for.
Yeah, I think there'll be a specific game plan for the Chiefs. I think they've had it sort of dialed up. I think we saw some of it in the regular season too. I know there was a lot of talk about, hey, we're not going to show every single thing that we can do. But we showed quite a bit of how they want to attack containing Travis Kelce. I think Terrell Bernard did a good job of prioritizing him, stopping the run. I think there's a lot of things that we can glean from that last game of how they plan to attack. But now you add Milano in. The concerns that I have are some of the injuries that have popped up. Obviously, Taylor Rapp being out could be a huge one. I know people have a lot of faith in Cole Bishop, and he filled in okay, I think, in that Ravens game. But I don't know that I love him in a Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. If he's the starter, I think that they're looking there to target a rookie who hasn't seen a lot and hasn't played against the Chiefs a lot. So I think that would be a concern of mine. Taron Johnson's injury, he popped back up limited today. I think he's fine. I think that's a treatment thing. Yeah. But I don't know. Sometimes these injuries for guys, they're able to play, but the injury changes how they can play, right? And like a Taron is a guy that I don't really want any change into how he can play and how he can hit and how he can fill in the run. And so I'm hoping that isn't the case in that one. Everyone else, I'm expecting, I think Milano's going to be fine. We're hearing Terrell Bernard say the way he was talking about everything's a normal week. It looks like Christian Benford's trending in the exact right direction that you'd like to see with a guy coming off a concussion. So all that looks good. But those two injuries that are potentially kind of in the spine of your defense with Taryn and Rapp, those ones are ones I'm going to be watching as we head into Friday here, because I think those could be slightly concerning. And Rapp's a 1-2 that comes off with some real playoff experience, having gone to a Super Bowl. That type of experience, going from that to a rookie, could be one of the big things that can make all the difference in a game like this. So that is definitely one that's concerning to me. I do love this comment here from Jason, which thank you for the super chat, Jason here. Throw out all the stats. They do not properly weigh what it takes to win when two great teams play. It's all about the details and critical moments and who executes better during those games. And I think that goes to the point, Greg, that Kent and we were kind of talking at the top of this one. There aren't two teams in the NFL right now that are more battle tested and have seen more moments in football games than these two teams and coaching staffs, right?
Yeah. No, I think that there is battle tested. The core of this team is the same guys. Like you talk about Milano and Dawkins and Josh and like so many guys, and the entire McDermott and Bean and like the core pillars of this organization are the same guys who are here and have gone through so much. So many of the right DNA guys. Having a guy like Amari Cooper in his comments about how it's awesome to be in a position where winning is all that matters, and that he's been in positions where he gets the ball all the time, and that he knows his impact to being on the field when the other teams have to pay attention to that can open things up for other people, and that he just wants to win. Like, that is so rare in today's game that I think they have like such a really good mix in the locker room and the right guys here who are all pulling in the right direction. And that all of those things, plus we have Josh Allen, and that it just, all of those things make it so much more possible of what this could turn into. And that, I feel good going into this game. I feel oddly calm and confident. I feel like all the things we've said in these other times, like we have, as Chad says here, the vibe on the team just feels different this year. There's less of that nervous energy, less of that like pressing anxiety that we've heard in the past. Like, this team is confident. They feel good. They know what they're capable of. They know they have a special opportunity here, and they're not afraid to be comfortable in it and to say that, hey, we know what we can do. We know what we can accomplish. I think that's a really special thing.
Yeah, I'm super calm. I guess check with me on Sunday at 5 o'clock. See how calm I am. No, but the big concern for me is, if it's not now, then when? Right? Like, because I do think the vibe of this team, the tightness of this team, the health throughout this playoff run and going into this moment, the balance of what they're able to do offensively. Joe Brady's probably not going to last much longer. Everything seems to feel like it is lined up for a moment to make a run. You just overcame what historical offense. You've played one of the best defenses, two of the best defenses in the AFC. You overcame both those, and this team is just not as good. Yes, they have the pedigree. I agree. You throw out some of the stats and stuff. They have the pedigree, but this is the final boss. I know it's not the final game on the if you advance past there, but this feels like the final boss. And if you lose this game, I'm gonna have a tough time of thinking like, God, like, when is it going to line up better? Because you're not going to get all these things to line up as favorably as they have right here this season, and have this type of feeling where we're not anxious and don't feel pressure and don't feel pressed.
We will until we win it. And I think there's a little bit of a pushback here from Retro saying this was supposed to be the reset year, that we were in cap hell. This team had a lot of area needs to address. It wasn't supposed to be this good. So I think there's I think there can be confidence every year, because if we made it this run in this year, we should always feel good. So I think that's fair.
The window's always open, but how many years are you going to get to the postseason and not have a big injury to a star player?
The health part I think is very fair. The health part is very real, and I'll go back and find it here. I think it was Padden that had it, that we don't have our fifth string linebacker and a guy 1 week out of retirement out there playing. We're generally healthy. Here it is. We're generally healthy. And I think that the Taylor Rapp piece matters. And right now, if I'm reading the tea leaves of the practice participation, it seems like Taryn, Milano, Dawkins, and Benford are all trending towards playing
right
and
way,
good to go. And then if I had to guess right now, I'd say Taylor Rapp is not going to play and that the hip injury is going to keep him out. And we're probably going to see Bishop and
But not
Hamlin
the end of the world. So
as
like
the
he's
starting
not.
safeties. I don't think that's a huge drop off or huge
I think it's a big
impact
drop off, but you
overall.
have a guy with experience. You're not pulling a dude off the street.
Correct. Like Cole
Right.
Bishop's been there the whole time
Sure.
and was drafted in the second round for a reason and is ready to play. So it's better than AJ Klein playing
Yeah.
a full game like
Sure.
it was last year. So it could be worse. Like you're in a better position as the third safety than most teams are to be in this. But honestly, the same idea. Like the spot snaps from Cam Lewis is not the end of the world. Like he's made some plays. He's been this, but I don't want to play the whole game, but he's been able to come in and contribute. Jamarcus Ingram has contributed. We have guys who can contribute in this game.
Jason pushing back a little bit on it's not the best time. We had home field advantage and a higher seed last year. But again, like Bernard got hurt, right? Like there was legitimate injuries that you can't go into a game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Milano wasn't there. Like it was you sort of, yes, you did all the things you needed to do in the regular season. Daquan, Rasul Douglas was playing on like one knee. That's another storyline here that I think revenge game for Rasul Douglas in this moment of being healthy. He hasn't played great lately. But yeah, you had guys that were banged up that were actually playing and still playing banged up. It wasn't an ideal situation. It wasn't the best time for them to attack a team to advance like that.
Yeah. So that's actually part of what I'm going to predict for this game of what I think we see. I think we're going to see some unexpected heroes in this game, some guys who haven't been there. I think we see a shockingly big game from Amari Cooper. I think a lot of people are way over I guess analyzing would be the right term, the like trade value of things, of like whether what we needed or what the return has been statistically versus
one good game here.
He's still there. Like if he's part of the reason we go to the Super Bowl or win a championship, the trade is worth it in spades. Like we did paid off like crazy. So I'm expecting a big game from him, and I think we're going to see a big game out of Cole Bishop because I think that he's going to have the opportunity because I think they're going to test him. I think they're going to go after him. I think they're going to try to get behind him with, both Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. They have the weapons to try to do that. And I think that the safeties coaches and Babich and McDermott are going to hammer that Hamlin rep and the Nico Collins rep from earlier this year into his head of like, hey, this is what you can allow. Here's what your job is. You have to be able to be there. And I think he's going to have the opportunity to make plays because I think they're going to try to test him. I think they're going to go at him. And they're going to, of course, like Mahomes is going to pass for yards. They're going to game things. They're going to get him a couple times. But I think he's going to come up and make a play because they're going to go at him and try to test him.
I agree that we're going to get some guys that aren't necessarily. One thing I don't think this is going to be, again, similar to last week, I don't think this is going to be the biggest Josh Allen game. I think a lot of people are saying like they're focused on Mahomes versus Josh Allen, and that's going to be whoever has the best game out of those guys is going to win this game. I don't agree.
James Cook versus Kareem Hunt might be
I think
what decides this.
I think it's a big James Cook game. I think it's a big offensive line game. I think it's a trenches game. That's where the Bills have continuously lost against the Kansas City Chiefs when they've played, has been nobody can block Chris Jones. And on the other side of the ball, they just can't get pressure. Right. And so I think the trenches are going to be challenged. I think this, to me, I've been really hyping up the Von Miller train in this season as we get into the playoffs.
Just let him finish once. Just bend that corner one time.
This is it, dude. This is why he's here. If Von can get a big third down stop, hold them to a field goal because Von Miller pressure, a throwaway. It doesn't even have to be a sack. Get him on a throwaway. Just Von Miller creating pressure. They're super vulnerable on the edge right now. To me, it's the trenches. I think Ed Oliver comes out and has a big game. That's where I really think this game is going to be one. I think that the Bills, even though the Bills defensive line has been super up and down and hard to pinpoint what week they're going to be good, I think that the trenches win this game for the Bills. And that's going to be what I think we were talking about a lot on the postgame show.
I like Chad's energy here, big man Tutty. And maybe even Mike, maybe Reggie Gilliam, like sneak Reggie Gilliam. I am going to call it, they're going to use that stupid like hidden Shakir play that he now when he's leaking out of the backfield, they're going to hit him on one of those. Maybe maybe they'll use it a little bit further back and they'll like hit him on a wheel route as he sneaks out and heads up the sideline or something. I want them to get sneaky with one of those. But I'd love big man touchdowns are good any time of the year. Little ball to Reggie Gilliam. We'll see where it goes. All right. Kevin here. Greg needs to see Alec Anderson's belly. This is factually accurate. That is a factually accurate statement.
Yeah, if they're partying, man, like this, man, please.
I need it. I need it.
Yeah.
All right,
I don't think it's gonna be a party night until the end.
I think it's going to be super, super stressful until the very end.
Yeah.
Super, super stressful. All right. I went first last time. It's your turn.
Yeah. I feel super confident here. I'm going against my own advice on this. I'm going against my own mantra, all like the principles that I stand on with stuff like this, where it is always to me has been, I'm not going to pick this team until they prove it. I was that way with the Patriots dynasty for all those years, even though I wanted it to be the year that they would beat them. I can't pick until I see it. I've been that way historically here with this Chiefs run of like, hey, until we see them win, I just can't do it. I'm going against it. I just feel good. Maybe it's the Von Miller in me. Maybe all this coverage of Von Miller has got me thinking over optimistically, and I just want to put positivity out into the universe. But I do think the Bills are going to finally do this. I think this is that Michael Jordan getting over the Pistons, the Manning getting over the Patriots moment. I don't know if they'll get multiple Super Bowls or multiple runs, but I think they get one in this run of the Patrick Mahomes dynasty era. And I think this is the year for it. I do think it's going to be a tight game. I'm actually picking the exact same score that I picked last week. I got a 27-24, which I was close last week it was 27-25. I was real close. I think it's a similar type game where, again, both teams doing their best to not allow the other quarterback onto the field. And it just comes down to one team getting more touchdowns and eliminating. I don't think the turnovers will be there, but I do think the Bills can get some stops and get Bucker out there at least once for a field goal. And I think that's going to be all the difference in the world is if you can stop a drive or two or get a punt or two, those are going to be the plays that we're ending up talking about.
I think that's a great call. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that there's a really exciting opportunity here. We saw earlier in the season, the Bills beat the Chiefs 30-21. Josh scored on that big play, 4th and 2, where they're up by 2, needed to be able to.
The one we thought was going to be cap him off for the MVP.
What should have been the MVP. It's all right. He'll get the Super Bowl MVP.
That's
It'll
right.
be fine. I think that this is going to be a similar setup. I think that they're going to be winning. I think it's going to be 17-16, and that they're coming down the field and they're going to be faced with a similar challenging decision, and that they're going to have to figure out, hey, do we kick the field goal to be up by 4, or do we go for the touchdown to be able to give ourselves a chance to put ourselves ahead here and lock up this game? I think they're going to be aggressive. I think they're going to go for it. I think Josh scores, and then I think they go for 2. And I think they put themselves in a position where they have the absolute chance to lock this up. And I'm going to pick them to be able to win 25-16. I think that they're going to put themselves out there, and then they're going to go on and get themselves to a Super Bowl. It's going to be fantastic.
I like that. If they win, let's go back to that question that we asked Ken. If the Bills do go ahead, now that I want to look ahead, who would you prefer, Philly or?
I think it's a super easy choice. One, Washington's way more fun. Like, it's the more fun team to play, and I think we have a better chance to beat them. So, I think the Eagles are a flawed team.
I think they're running out of steam a little bit too.
Their strengths line up with our strengths much better. Our strength is rotation of the defensive line, the strength of our offensive line. Their defensive line is a bunch of freaking monsters, and their offensive line is awesome. So everything else around there, I think we could beat Hurts. I think we could figure out how to cover the weapons on offense. I'd be nervous about Saquon, just like I'm nervous about Derrick Henry, but whatever. It's not going to be the downfall of the team. Their trenches are awesome, and I don't want to give that a chance to get healthy with the 2-week break to then be ready for that game. So I will be rooting. We'll know the opponent before the game. I will be fully rooting for the Washington Commanders, because I'll trust Babich and McDermott to go against a rookie quarterback and to finally be the one to.
He is a rookie, but he ain't no
finally
rookie.
be the one to rattle him. They will be the ones to rattle him and find a way to get him out of this insane calm that he's shown.
Yeah, they scare me more, honestly, because I feel like they could
It's not
just
crazy.
drop. They
It's
could
not
drop
crazy.
50. And we don't have anyone to guard Terry McLaurin, and he can just throw the ball all over us. Honestly, that team, I kind of want that team to die, even though I want success for my friends that are Commanders fans. That's a tough one, and I think that line's a little crazy. It's like 6, right?
I don't understand it.
I think that's too much. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe the Philly will come out and blow them out, and they're not ready for the moment. But I'm not a betting man too much. But man, that's enticing me to at least get in on that spread.
Yeah, the money line. If you bet money line on the Commanders, you make some money. So
I think so. Like they can just get it close at any point, right? Like I don't know. That seems like a crazy line for a game like this. Maybe they know something we don't. They usually do.
Again, the offensive line matters. But yeah, if you bet $100 on Washington, you win $235. So you get more than double your money if they win.
Yeah. But you better do that responsibly. Only bet $100.
Yes, BetUS would like you to bet responsibly. Please do so. All right, man. For anyone who would like to talk more, ask us more questions, come on over and join us in the Discord channel. Our Cover One Pass members, we're going to go do an after show over there to hang out and answer all their questions and hang out with them a bit. I've been trying to lobby Mark Schlereth to do an interview with me because he's really had a lot of fun going at Chiefs fans. Obviously, spending most of his career with the Broncos, he hates the Chiefs. Sure. That's been fun to watch him dunk on Chiefs fans. That's been a really cool path to watch. So if I can convince him to find some time for us, I might try to fit in something with him. But Aaron, anything else for the people?
Yeah, man. I think tomorrow I'm going to launch up a Twitter Spaces in the morning at some point, just to chat more. I'm excited, man. I want to talk about this game as much as I can. I'll be on Sportsnet tomorrow night at some point too, chatting with our good friend Raj Lujois. Yeah, man. Who knows? I might even do a segment tomorrow to get more out there. I got a segment from WGR. I know you were on Sportsnet today. So the bunch of stuff out there. Anthony and Eric were ripping up the film room. The guys are making great content. So just consume it. We don't know how long this run's going to last. It could be over Sunday. I hope not, because I'm enjoying just chatting Bills and talking Bills, dude. I'm pumped, ready for it. So yeah, if you're in Discord, come ask us questions. If not, tomorrow we'll be on Twitter Spaces. You can ask some questions there, and we're gonna have fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. And I have some thoughts on Liam Cohen, who, breaking news, was just named the coach of the Jaguars after playing those two teams back and forth. And I have some thoughts to share on that. So coming over and
I like that it's not Joe Brady. Another spot. Yes, Joe Brady's not going to coach next year.
It's fantastic. It's delightful. Check those off the list. All right, guys, we appreciate you. On behalf of our fantastic sponsor, William Mattar Law Offices, we love working with them. Hurt in a car, call William Mattar, 844-444-4444. And our friends over at BetUS, who do remind you to bet responsibly. And fantastic producer, Chris Kepner. I am Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to me and my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. This is the Cover One Buffalo podcast, and we are out.